So we have an email that goes to our lower and middle division families. And this email is nicely branded. And when you look inside of the email, we have a ton of liquid markup. So all these yellow parts are liquid markup. And that's because we are targeting folks with the information that they need to know. And we're really trying to drive folks based on actions that we know that they've taken and moving them forward in the process. So, right, you want to make your funnel as seamless as possible and you want to kind of move people along. So our lower and middle division, Stevenson is generally student-centric. And I know for those of you who might be listening that are higher ed, you'd be like, okay, what's the big deal here? But you can use this in lots of different ways. The ideas that I'm talking about here can be used for advancement and for student success. Especially if you're talking about relationships with folks, we have parents as person records, and then we have relationships. So parents and students are person records. And then we have relationships connecting those together, which is a super helpful process for us. It requires a little bit of duplicate cleanup, but it works really well for us because obviously lower and middle division, their grades PK through 8. Not all of them have email addresses, and not all of them are logging on to the computer. Besides to watch like Elmo or something. So we really target the parents for a lot of communication. So we kind of start on a person based for the parents and then join to the relationships that have their students in them. I am a parent of 4, so I would really not like to get 4 different emails about my students. It's great when my school can just be like, to the Lehwald family. That's really helpful. And so we're working with some of that kind of idea back here as well. So I'm going to kind of walk through what the intention of this email is. This email is to welcome folks to the Stevenson admission process. They've inquired, they've submitted, RFI, an inquiry form, and we want to move them along to the application completion process. We want them to application submission process because we have a Slate hosted application. So we're trying to move them along here. Also within this, we have our call to action is application, but also we really want them to sign up for events if we have available events. That's another kind of call to action in there, and want them to log in, or that we don't want them to have to log in there. We want them to be able to go to our public facing web pages and sign up, but we want it to be connected to the student. So lots of different logic for this. So in general, we know lots about families when they inquire. Things that we know that before I would have said, okay, well, I know for the pre-K and K folks, they have a little bit different application process and they apply a little bit differently. And I'm highlighting this. They have a 2-part campus visit experience versus a 1-part campus visit experience. They have a little bit different requirements. In the past, I would have just created a welcome email for folks who had, 1 through 8 and a welcome email for folks that had pre-K through K. And I would have been like, wow, good job. Good me. And I would have great, you copied the mailing. Fantastic. But now I know that I can send it to one group and I can use existence filters to say, show this or not show this. So inside of here, I'm saying for this section here, it's only specific to pre-K and K. So you use some liquid logic to say, if pre-K, K, if whatever your export is, equals Y. Some folks use 1s and 0s. Some people you could say yes or C, whatever you want to, you could have it on there. But basically you're saying, okay, inside the query, if this existence filter says yes or no, then show something. And so I'm going to go over here and look at the recipients list, and I'm going to kind of describe, again, test records here.
Thank you.
So, sometimes I mess up, but so for this kind of grouping, and it could just be for the students too. It doesn't have to be, through a relationship, but you could say, okay, is this student a junior or a senior? Is the student in the New York area? It could be it could be whatever you want to for the existence export. But in this one, I'm saying they have a child in pre-K or K in the term that we were looking at, which is fall 25. So I'm saying yes. So families that had a pre-K or K applicant would need to see this. I think existence filters are one of the easiest and most accessible ways to start with liquid markup because it's just a yes or a no. And it's just I'm showing something or not showing something. So it's an easy way to kind of dip your feet in. You can also just do an export too of, say it's, if you want to know if they're business or not, you could just have an export of what their major is and say, if major equals this. You could also use a content block for that. Kind of depends on what you're doing, but I like the existence filters because then you can filter on kind of a couple of different things together to be able to decide if this information is relevant for this person or family or not. And then we close that end if here. And then another call to action that we wanted to have was we wanted to invite the family to come to programming. We wanted to invite them to an event. But I don't want to have to stop this mailing when our events are over. I just want it to keep going. So the liquid markup that I have here is I'm saying if events available equals Y. This is where some people, myself included, would just really freak out about an independent subquery because I thought when people talked about independent subqueries, I didn't understand what they were talking about. I thought it was dumb. I didn't understand how anyone would ever use, like, what's the use for that? And now I use it all the time. But basically, an independent subquery means that you are now exporting or filtering on something that has nothing to do with the base that you're on. So you're moving off of the base that you're on. So for right here, I'm on the configurable joins person based, but I want to capture events. And that is, you can't really get there from the person based because I just want events. I don't want this person's events. I just want events in general. So instead, we have an independent subquery. So with an independent subquery, you can choose whatever you want to your heart's content. You can do systems. You can do, whatever you want to. So in this case, I'm saying I want to look at the base of form, and I want to say a couple different criteria for me. I want it to be in the template that I'm looking for. I want it to be today or tomorrow, I guess. I want it to be starting, tomorrow on, because I don't want to send something to somebody that's going to happen today. They can't register for it. And I want it to be confirmed or active. Don't make that mistake that I've made before. You can also do, yeah, we've all been like, oh shoot, there's a bunch of tentative ones that we did. You might also want to put space available, to make sure there's space available, because if there's a full event, you don't want to have to go back. Or you don't have to tell folks like, oh, sorry, you can't, I asked you to, but you can't register. So that I'm just saying if those criteria exist, then say yes, or Y. And if there's no things that exist, then say N. When I set this up in my test environment, there were none because they're all from before. So I just quickly, added one for the future, and then I was able to see it. So I'm saying if events available, then I want to show this block of text, just kind of like what we did before. This is where the dictionary export comes in though. So I have 4 kids and I want to each one of them to show, I want to be able to click on and register each one of my students. And we do the events student centric. So if you have to sign each child up because, you could be coming and only 2 of the children might be coming. And a lot of times we'll have a split where families have a student in the lower division and the middle division and the upper division, or a combination of those. So, and we want it to be student centric. So with here, I'm going to go in the source data to look at this because it kind of disappears a little bit. I need to find it. So we were, in that kind of section, we were talking about, okay, if events available are yes, then show this. And this is another one of those liquid looping. And this one is using that dictionary output there that we, I'll go back and show that, but basically saying, and I used for result here. I don't know, I could have used for item, but I used for result. So it was probably something that was already set up. But for result in the student details, I want to have the link be going to our portal, and I want the person ID to be that student's result GUID. So when you click on the link, I want it to go to our website and already pre-fill for you. If you're not using the pre-filled filter or the pre-populated form links, they make such a big difference. They make it easier for families and students and easier for us on the back end for lots of duplicates. And then I want the text to say admission events and then for that student's name. So we'll go back here and kind of look at this for a second. So the student details is a dictionary export, which again was super scary to me. Like it was so confusing. But I'm doing the same kind of things. I'm like joining to relation and joining to the linked record person. And I'm basically saying for that person that is related to this parent, or it could be many different other things. You could be doing it, if you're doing it for donors, you could be saying that I want 4 events that are, in a certain range from where the person lives or something like that. Or different, if that person is a donor and they like a certain department or something, then you could be using that for that too. But I'm basically saying, because I want because I'm looking for student information, I'm saying, okay, I'm linking it to the linked record person. And then I'm giving that preferred name and that GUID, all computer friendly. So now when I go back here, we're going to look at an example here, and then you have to close it with an end if. So here I have Ben Wyatt's family, and Ben Wyatt they only have one kid in the family. So he is not a pre-K or K. So now we can see that we don't get that pre-K or K section. And then we are going to loop through. We have events available for Ben to come to. And then when you hover over here, the link is going to send it, and the GUID is going to open, and it's going to take it straight to that registration on that page for Ben, and it's going to have his GUID in there. If you have more than one child, you are going to see it loops through both children. So this is 2 kids, and it's looping through both of those. So I don't have to do separate emails. I don't have to get 4 emails for me as a person. I don't have to get 4 emails for my kids. I get 1 email with all the information, and then each of these is a specific link to the child. So using liquid markup, I feel like this is a lot of words for me to say, but if you can take things away from it, as far as you can be really specific to people's interests and relationships and majors and grade levels, all the sorts of things that folks want to know and want you to know about them and have, customized is really great. I really love the idea of, cutting down, if you want to send an email to folks, to alumni in a certain area or to students in a certain area. And then if we're having a conversation and you say, oh, I live in Phoenix, and I'm like, oh, great. We're going to be in Phoenix next week. That's great. If you say, oh, I live in Phoenix, and I'm like, great, we're going to have events in Kansas City next week. You're like, what? Like, were you not listening? Were you not paying attention? And that's the kind of conversational kind of thing that I think Slate is best at, is helping you to make it conversational so people feel like they actually know who you are when you're emailing them. So those are some of the tips that I have for Deliver. I think that was, and then I have different groupings. Like if you're a reapplicant, I want you to know that I'm giving you a fee waiver code. If anyone's applying to Stevenson, I'm going to change the fee waiver code this year. Okay. If you've logged in, I want you to get your, if you've logged in, I'm not really giving you your email address and your PIN because you don't need to know that. You already have logged in. I just have the application portal here. We just have that button. And that's really helpful too. So I have, again, at the bottom, I have, if you're pre-K and K, because it's a little bit different, right? So, and then I'm using some else statements here. So if you're a reapplicant, say yes, or reapplicant, then put this information there. And then there's this else if. So else, otherwise, if you're a current Stevenson family, then do something different. And then if, otherwise else. So using else statements is really helpful too. And thinking about things really logically and being like, oh, what should each person get is really great. And then last thing is that previewing the message is always super helpful. That's what I just did when I was checking out the difference between Wyatt, the Saperstein family, and the Wyatt family. Go into your query, run your query, have your exports in there of what you are like changing and customizing. And then go in and test. What is it going to look like? Because a lot of times I'll go in after I've done liquid looping or liquid markup or anything, and I'll say, oh, that spacing is odd. And then so I'll have to like put a space behind something or in front of something because, if you're not showing a whole section, maybe you need to put a space or an enter, what I'm saying, right afterwards. So it like gives it, that nice look, and previewing is one of the best ways to do that. And then also sending yourself like an ad hoc email is really helpful to send yourself a test email too.